Hi folks, this is J2 Minds, and today we are going to learn the MERN stack by building a student registration app from front to back. And the prerequisites could be Node.js should be installed. I prefer to go with the 14 plus version, and code editor should be installed. I like to go with the VS Code, and you should be having some basic JavaScript and ECMAScript knowledge. And let's cover some basics, then we will get into the practical. The MERN stack is a popular stack of technologies for building a modern single page application. The MERN stack consists of the following set of technologies: MongoDB, it's a document based open source database; Express, a web application framework for Node.js; React, a JavaScript front-end library for building user interfaces; and Node.js is nothing but a JavaScript runtime environment that executes JavaScript code outside of a browser, such as server. So let's get practical, and we will add a folder to our workspace. And I'm going to create, and we will name this student registration. Let's add this, and the first thing is first, let's build the backend first. So for that, we'll create a folder called backend, and inside this backend I will create a file called index.js, which should be my entry point, and on right clicking I should open integrated terminal. Let me check my Node version. So it's 14.15. Okay, I would recommend to use the same version. So let's do, first thing is first, let's say npm init, and the backend we should call it student backend, and the description entry point should be index.js, that's correct, and get report now, and author you can choose it. I will write mine, J2 Minds, and this is it. So the package.json contains the configuration of your overall project. Okay, so we need to install some package, npm I, we need to install Express, we need to install cars. I will make you understand why we are using this, and then we should be using mongoose, and we should be using yeah, that's it. Yeah, one more dev library I missed, that is .env, that is for reading environment variables. You see, once we did npm I, these following dependencies, or you can say libraries, got added under the dependencies property of package.json. Okay, and we should be installing one global property, that is npm I -g goes to global, and then nodemall. So we are installing nodemall only once we start the index.js. So whenever we made any changes, it should restart by its own. Okay, it's not a restart, or we can say a refresh. Then let's update this file. I will add the script start, and it should say nodemall index.js. Okay, so let's go to the business. I will maximize this. Okay, now let's test our application first. Say we need Express, we need to require this. The property in this express dependency we installed, and we should say this. Okay. Now we need to get the cause as well. You can say here we have already discussed Express. It is a fast and lightweight web framework for Node.js. Then this cross-origin resource sharing allows AJAX requests to skip the same origin policy and access a resource from remote hosts. The CORS package provides an Express middleware that can enable CORS with different options. And now one more thing we need to add, that is .env. So we can add it directly. We can require .env and we can call .config. Okay. So .env loads environment variables from a .env file into process.env. This makes development simpler. Instead of setting environment variables on our development machine, they can be stored in a file. And let's create that file. That file is already created here. You can delete this. I will recreate this. It is .env. And we can add the variables here. Let's create the port equal to 4000. That's cool. Oh, but this file should be inside the backend folder. Yeah, no, it's good. Okay, and let's create the app object from express function. And then we need to use that cause as a middleware. We say that use cause, and then we say another middleware, that is this app.use, and we call it express.json to read the request body data. Okay. And let's create the server. First, get the port from the .env. The port is process.env.port. Okay, and let's say app.listen. Let's give it a port and let's give it a callback as well to test that server got created or not. Let's log it out, console.log, and let's say server is running on port okay. Let's close these two, we don't need to save them. Okay, and yeah, this is pretty it. Let's test this out. You can see nodemon, sorry, not nodemon, we have added it already. We can say npm start. What npm start will do, it will run this command, and the command is nodemon index.js. So we are going to run this index.js file. Okay, here we go. The server is running on port 4000. Okay, first thing is first, we need to create the MongoDB server. So I will not prefer to go with the local MongoDB database. It will create the issues for a lot of guys. So let's go with the Mongo Atlas. So you should say Mongo, you should search Mongo Atlas here, and MongoDB Atlas. Go here, let's create the cluster. Let's go to the sign in. If you don't have a account over here, you should go with sign up. So here we go. I have this cluster created now, and I chose the free one, and my nearby region, that was this Mumbai, and I chose AWS, and the cluster name for my one is cluster 0. So it will take 2 to 3 minutes to create the cluster. So that should be it. You should give the network IP address. In my case it's 0.0.0, so that makes it available for everyone who's having that database access. I have set the user one user, that is J2 Minds, with my own password, so you need to remember that password as well. So let's do one thing. Let's copy the URI. So for that you should say connect and connect to your application and copy this part. Okay, click here, it's copied. Okay, so once you do that, say I copied it, and you should go to the .env file and you should say atlas URI. Yeah, I should say atlas URI. Okay, and here you need to update the password which you have given to the cluster you have created on MongoDB Atlas. Okay, so I have updated the password. Let's create the connection. Okay, to do that we need to create the Mongo URI. We need to get that Mongo URI. So we can get that from process.env.atlas URI. And let's test this out by Mongo's connect. And we should give the URI and use second parameter should be to avoid the unnecessary warning. I'm giving use unified technology to be true. Yeah, this should be the thing. Okay. Let's this. Let's say Control S and let's say npm start. And error containing unescaped head. I have connected my MongoDB server. So I figured out the issue that was with my connection URI. Okay, so you need to add this, use new URI parser, use create index to be true, use unified topology, otherwise it will throw a lot of warnings. Okay, then I have given one callback to check if I have an error or not. So I got null, that is connection created. Okay, so this is pretty good. Now what we can do is we can get the routes, and for that we need to add that express router. To create that we can prepare the express library. We need to create the route object. So we can say route object from express.router. Cool. We need to correct the syntax error. Cool. Let's test the router. Route.get. Let's test our home route. This should be request and response parameter. And let's pass the callback arrow function and let's respond. Respond.send hello world. So the first thing I learned in the programming. let's go with the same. Let's export this module dot expose. We need to export the product. Okay, so let's require that index routes. We need to import that. To do so, you can say const routes required. Okay, and we'll pass that routes. Let's test our home route. It should give us hello world. Localhost 3001, it should be 4000 and 4000 or 4001. We are, oh sorry, we are running on 4000, not 4001. Come on. Yeah. So our backend is working good. We got the hello world. Now let's quickly do the things. We are here for today. So what we need to do is we need to create the student registration, and we need to get the student and we should be able to delete the student record. So let's add the controller here, student controller.js, and let's add a model for MongoDB. So we can say not here but here inside backend. We will create one more folder called models, and for that we will create one file called student, the behavior of that student document. So this student model, what it will define, it will show like how our student should look like. Okay, so to do so, let's create the model. Let's see, require Windows. Okay, and then we need to create a schema object from this. Let's create that. So student equal new mangoes dot schema. Okay, and we should add the behavior. It should look like it's the same. The student must have a name of type string and the standard. We can say, or we can say a class, in which class he is studying. Then it should be having a type string, and then we should be having one special property called roll number, and that roll number we give it the object. We can define the type here. Type should be number. Okay, and then it should be the guide property, right? Although name should be required too. Let's keep the roll number for now, and then it should be unique as well. Cool. Yeah, I think this should be it. One more thing, we need to add this to this schema is that is timestamps. So whenever we create the student, the created add property will get created by default. So we need to set this true. Okay? And let's create a short student will go in the model called Mangoes model This would be our collection name, student, and it will go to the class schema of student. Let's export this module.exports equals. So we have created the student model and we will export it. We already did that. Okay, so these are the three properties of the student. This is the behavior of the student. It should be carrying the name property, then standard, or we can say a class, then roll number. Okay, and let's go to the student controller and let's create this. Let's get the student model first. Student should be from the model. It should be inside the models and should be student. Cool. First, we should be responding with all the students in the database. Get all the students, okay. And this should be async because like database queries are most asynchronous, so that's why we are using async await. You should be aware by these concepts. You can use promises as well. So const students, if I will cover all those basics like these async await, then it will take a lot of time, so you should learn them throughout the lesson. I'll say student.find, this is the query. Okay, this will give us all those students inside the database and we should simply respond it. So we are here skipping a lot of validations. Okay, I'm skipping them because I know like if I will focus on that, then it will be this video is going to be very long and you will get bored. Okay. This should be pretty it. Let's create one student. Const create student, and it should be async request response, and for that we should be having the name of a student and roll number and which standard he is studying. So we can say request.body. This is going to be a post route. Okay, so let's create a student object. Student is going to be new student, and then it's going to carry that name and roll number and standard. Cool. Let's say const result equal to await and say student.save. We are using await here because this .save is also asynchronous method. Okay, let's respond. Again, we are skipping here validation, so I will cover it after if time permits. So we have created these two, and we need to create one more controller for the third API that is going to be delete student from the database, and this is also going to be a asynchronous method, and request response style function callback. Cool. And this should be, we should be having a roll number of the student we want to delete because that's the only unique property. So So we should pass it in the query object. Then what we should do is we should say result equal to await. This is also going to be a synchronous call, so we should say delete normally that one, and our roll number is going to be roll number, and the query might give us it in string, so we can pass it to be in number because roll number is in number format. And we should pass the response.send result. Okay, so let's export all those controllers we have created. The one we get all students, and the other one is create student, and the third one is sorry, not delete one, but delete student. Cool. This is it. Let's go to our routes and let's do. We have to return all those students. We should say here what we need to do. We need to pass. To clear this, and we need to do this get all students. Okay, and it should be students the URL, and then we should be having post, the one which is responsible for creating the student. Right now we don't have any student in the database. This is student, and we should be create student, and then router.delete, and the delete one dot should be the singular, so it should be student slash delete. The controller is going to be delete student. This is it. Okay, so are we done? I think we are done with the backend. I guess this was quick. So let's test it out. So you need to have this postman installed. Okay, and let's create one request called post. And by this postman, you can test your APIs. Okay, so to do that, let's say HTTP, the URL is localhost, and the port is 4000, and it's going to be student. Okay, and we need to give the data in the body, that is going to be JSON type. In JSON we give it like this. Name should be what can we give the name? Let's say Frank. Frank is a good name. And let's give the standard. Maybe he's studying in the 5th class. Okay. And then roll number. Let's give him a 1. Okay, the first student, it's tested. Okay, that's cool. In one go, the Frank got created, and roll number is 1, and standard 5th. By that timestamp model that created and updated at. Okay, let's test that. Get one. Is it working? We should be receiving all those students. Cool. This one is working as well. Okay. So let's test the delete one. We should be giving student delete, and then we should be adding his query param. that is going to be roll number, and in that roll number is going to be 1. Okay, let's delete the Frank. So deleted. Did it count 1? Yeah, it is. Awesome. Let's test it again. We should be having 0 recalls. Cool. We're done with the backend, so let's go with the front-end part, and that is good. Our backend is ready, and it's running on port 4000. It's running good. We have tested all those API endpoints. Now let's create the React app front-end, and let's go inside student registration and integrate a terminal of VS Code, and let's run the command npm npx, and we should say create React app called client. Okay, so it will take some time to get created. It should take around 1 minute. Okay, all those integrated modules are getting installed. Installing React, React DOM, React strips. So everything got set up. Let's go through with these commands. Let's say we need to get into the client, and let's do npm start. Let's test if it's working good or not. So here we go. The development server is getting up, and we should see it in the browser. Now down port 3000. Yeah, you can see that it's working. And now let's go straight into business and work on it. You see, this app.js is the main entry point for this front end, so we need to update this. Let's remove this part. Okay, it should be good, and let's add some package. Same package we added in the backend. Now here we are going to add npm I Axios. Axios, we are going to use it for requesting the APIs like we have built, and that Axios library is going to be used on top of the React to hit those. And then we are going to use Bootstrap to develop a user-friendly interface. Okay, and this seems pretty it. These two are fine. Let's do this, and by the time these two gets installed, let's add this. No. Now this seems it. Let's create this logo out, and let's import the Bootstrap. So the Bootstrap should be inside Bootstrap virtual test. Then we should load from CSS. We should load Bootstrap .min .css. Yeah, and let's give the class name to be container. Okay, and we should create the components, new folder called components, and inside that we should create two components, one for fetching the students, all students. We should name it in the capital students.js, and one component responsible for creating the student itself. Okay. So first we will go to create the student. Okay. So for that we will import the React from React, and we have to import Axios which we just installed to hit the APIs. Right, we can use fetch as well, and we will write the functional component. Let's use some ES6 stuff. Student. Yeah, we are going to create a student, and for that, give me a second. We are not going to have any profs here. Okay, let's create some state variables. We are going to have a name and set name. We will use inbuilt React.useState. By default, it should be string, empty string, and then we will say the standard, the second property vector, in which class or in which standard is the student studying. We should set the standard at first. By default, it should be an empty string. Yeah, then we should be having the roll number and set roll number. This should be it. We are good to go here. React.use state could be by default nothing, right? You can say this. Okay, so this is it. Let's return some part of HTML. We'll create one form, and inside that form, let's add an S3 tag, and let's write student registration protal. Okay, let's make it simple. We need to keep it simple. This is for the beginners to do. We should give the class name. It is going to be a form group. This form group is an inbuilt class in the Bootstrap. It's carrying some CSS, that's why we are using it. So you should be understanding the Bootstrap as well. I'm not too good in the CSS, that's why I'm using this library. And this makes it easy for the developers. Into the name of the student. Into the name of student, yeah. Since it conveys a meaning, and then we should be having an input box. The type should be text, right? And the class name should be the form control of the Bootstrap. Inside form group, then it will be form control, and then on change event we should be having one event callback, and it should set name to be e.target.value, right? And it should be e.target.value. That seems very. Let's close the simple tag. And this is for the name of student. Let's copy this stuff. Alt shift down arrow. Let's do this 2 times, and let's say enter in the class, and you should say dot target as set standard, right? And then this roll number should be of type number. Enter the roll number of student, and here we go, set roll number. Good. And then we should be having one submit button. We should be having one button. The type should be equal to submit, and the class name should be btn Cranberry. Yeah, one click. We should be registering one click handler that we should call, what can we call, on submit handler. On submit handler. Yeah, and then we should close this one, and we should name it save. And then we have to write this submit handler, right? To do so, we'll create a customized function called const on submit handler, and it should be of type async, because we are hitting the APIs which are asynchronous in nature, right? So let's say const result equal to await, and to axios.post, we have to make the post request, and that goes to HTTP. You can create one config file where you can store this URL at once. So this is for the beginners right now. I don't want to make it complicated. That URL goes to localhost 4000. That will our backend, and it should go to the student. Okay, and for that it will carry the data. What goes here? Name, standard, and roll number. Right, this should be the sufficient information. And we should say if result, that means we are going to set the student. Set student. No, we don't. Let's not make it complicated. Let's make an alert. If not result, then alert here. Same, and something went wrong. Sorry, something went wrong. Okay, I guess this should be it. Let's copy this component and let's paste it over here, students, and let's update it. We need to fetch all the students. To do so, we will update the states. So we need to fetch the students first. Let's make it students, this component, and let's say const students, and say set students. Okay, and we should say react dot use state, and by default it should be empty. And then let's hit the API. To do so, we will use effect hook, use effect hook, and it will carry one callback. With that callback, it will also take this empty. So why I have given this square brackets. So this makes it equal to component did mount, the class based component we have in the React. So it will execute only once the view is loaded on the browser. Okay, so that's the right time to call the API. So we'll say exhaust.get, we'll say exhaust.get, and what we have to do, okay, here let's not make it async await, let's do it by promises. Okay, so that you can get the difference of both. Okay, so we should be using one API HTTP localhost, and the port goes to 4000, and then it goes to the students. I remember it well. Okay, the API, then .10. Okay, and we should be carrying some validation here as well, but I'm skipping it for this lesson. I want to make it simple, and let's update the set students to be response data. Okay, that is it. And yeah, so what this will do, once the view is loaded, this will request this API, get API. We tested it out there, so this is the API. Okay, right now we don't have any report, so this API will get, and it will return some data which we are going to store inside the students. Okay, and then we need to update this form. No, not form right now. We are going to have the table, the bootstrap table. Okay, we will show the list there. So first let's make a div. Okay, and then if we say if students dot length, if we get the length, then I say show render table, and table, otherwise render null. So we need to create this render table. Let's make it here as render table. Okay. Render table. So what, here we go, here we have to show the list. Let's make a return. Okay, and inside return we will do with this to make one element only to this empty brackets, and here we will say header h3 and say list of students. Cool. And let's create a bootstrap table quickly. Table with a class name to be class name should be table, and this is it. Then we have the header, and it should be having the table header will carry one row, that's tr, and then we are going to have the th, not dd here, th, and th 4. Okay, I'll show that. The first one is going to be name. Okay, then the roll number. Then we are going to have the class. And let's make it action for deleting the student. Okay, and let's set the class name here. Class name should be, no, not the class name, it's the scope. There is one scope property on th and tds. can make it call. Okay, I can make it row as well, and I will copy it for all the elements. Each elements, and then one last step to do, we have to create the table body. Okay, so we say table body. You can optimize this code and you can show it in the list items, but I prefer to go with the table because it's easy for the developers, at least for me. And students.map. So if there are list of students, we will map it on, we will loop it on, and we will get the student. And what we're going to do is, like, we are going to create. We are going to return directly in tr, and that tr is going to be dynamic tr, and it's going to have the key to be equal to, not through the warning, we are going to give it a key as student dot roll number because it's unique in nature. If you remember, we said that unique property in students model, right? So I will show you that back in code as well. Again, we should get the TD. How many TDs? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So here for the first one, we are going to add the student name. Student dot name in the interpretation. Then we are going to add the roll number. Student dot roll number, and then student dot class. Sorry, student dot standard. I kept it standard, not class, because class is the result keyword, so it could have created a problem, like the class keyword is already predefined. That's why I kept it, right? So okay, and then we need to add one action button for deleting. So we should say button type, button type equals submit, and class name should be equal to btn. These are the bootstrap classes. Danger non deleting something is already dangerous. So on click, what you should do, should register on callback and say on delete. What should we name it? On delete. Yeah, on delete sounds pretty good, and let's give it a on delete. Oh, what's going on? On delete, and let's give it a student dot roll number. Okay, and let's name it. So they should delete. Okay, and we should create that on delete, and we should give it a roll number, and on delete we should again call exits, and on delete, and we should call student, what was the name? Student slash delete the API name, and then the query param roll number, which should be equal to the roll number we have given in the param. Let's make it this, and let's give the roll number. So if no results, something went wrong. Otherwise, else what you need to do we need to set one property, one state we need to set, which can update after every delete. It should refresh the list. So for that, what we will use, we will use a proper state is deleted, set is, I like React functional components more than class-based. I will not use effect, come on, and keep it false by default. So once it is done, we should say set, if it is deleted successfully, we should set if deleted to be true. Okay, let's not use this functionality for now. I will show you like why it makes the difference. Okay, don't worry about this. So are we having one error? That error is here. What is this error for? It's for that, and we are missing one bracket. That parenthesis. Okay, let's run this. Let's say we are good to go. npm start. Come on, man. Yeah, that is expected behavior, because if we remember, we have not exported both the components, right? Yeah, I think yes. So let's do that. Export is default. Keep it default. And let's export the student here. We are not use both the components, and then export with defaults. Then students, it should be not this, and then we need to register it over here. Student and students there. Let's check. Oh wow, this seems perfect. Let's give it little minds. I want to study more. I'm in 4th class. Still, let's give it a shot. Oh, wow, it's working. Let's give it a back. Let's give it a second, and let's give our roll number to be 2. This is working good. And now, if you see, if I delete this, see, and the list is not updated, but if we check the results, the deleted were 2 calls. Yeah, we got the response, and the item is, the delete count is 1, so it is deleted. If we refresh the list, it's Frank again. Okay, let's do the J2 minus again. Let's see, I'm now in the 5th because I have completed this, and now roll number again 1 because it doesn't exist. Okay, so we got this. We got the refreshing here, so that should not be the behavior of single page application, but I will cover. There is a lot more to do, like validation and logging portals and all. So this was for that, and yeah, we forget to add that delete property. So this is deleted. If we say we want to call this API after every delete, we want to update the list, so that it can make it. See the difference now. Let's delete this. This is gone. This is gone. This should have been gone as well. This is good now. Frank. Okay guys, this was my first video on MERN Stack. I'm trying to improve myself a lot and I want to give you the best knowledge, and we have a lot to do more. We have to build the application in the mean, then I will come up with the microservices, Kubernetes deployment, and then Docker as well. By that time, I wish you good luck and ta-ta, bye bye. Please do subscribe my channel and like so that I